Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we're going to have a little chat about that there Space Wolves versus Orcs box Prophecy of the Wolf, where you'll be able to get Ragnar and Ghazghkull, not individually in their own boxes, but in one big box. And to be honest, I was still 50-50 on whether this would happen, because we've had so many conflicting rumours and weird stuff going around with all the Space Wolves and Orc stuff, to be honest, that it was kind of a bit of a toss-up as to whether we were even going to get this box or not. Now the thing is, I quite liked the idea of the box in theory, it being a strike force led by Ragnar to have a go at Gaz and his retinue for a second time, but the actual execution of said box kind of feels a bit like anti-thematic to me, and I don't know whether I'm being completely unfair, whether I'm just disappointed that actually it is a big box, which sometimes these big boxes can be great, they can be really good value, they can kind of bring something to the table. This doesn't feel like one of those boxes. This feels like a bit of... It just feels a bit meh. A bit kind of, alright, I guess. I don't know whether it's because I was excited about getting Ghazghkull, but don't care about literally anything else to do with this release. I don't know whether it's because, actually, since we had Blood of the Phoenix, all the other characters and models that we've got for different factions have been in their own standalone boxes. They've not been part of a big release, they've been part of their own just individual, here's your hero, off you go. Which, whilst the heroes are expensive, it's still better than spending like £100 and something on a box when you only want one model out of it. I mean, yes, you can go halves, and that's still, I think, a perfectly legitimate thing to say when there's a complaint about value. Yes, you can still go halves. If you want to split the box with someone else, you can. If you want to sell off one side, you can. If you're just going to start two armies, you can. But this is one of those kind of situations where I don't even collect either of the armies involved. I just wanted the single model. So for me personally, it's a bit disappointing just because it's like, yeah, but I don't want the rest. Now, of course, there are plenty of people out there who will want the rest. I'm not saying that it's a bad box just because I personally only want the one thing. For me, the box itself, I like, as I said, I like the theory, but not the practical. Because the theory of Ragnar striking in with a small team to take out Gaz a second time, and, fighting him and his personal retinue, that's actually kind of fun on paper. But the issue that I have with it is that actually, looking at that box, with that in mind, it still feels a little bit lackluster to me. Now, I think part of the issue is that, for a start, if you don't count the grots, and grots don't count, they're not orcs, they're just grots, the Space Wolves outnumber the orcs, which, I get it, you have Ghazghkull on one side. Ghazghkull is massive, he is a tank, he is an absolute beast, but still, it looks weird. The numbers don't quite line up for me. Purely because this is supposed to be like a war that is absolutely, devastatingly bad. There are visions, there are, rune priests are having actual kind of prophetic visions of how absolutely unstoppable this thing is. And then in the box, it's Ghazghkull and 8 dudes. Now, I get it. It's his it's his bodyguard. It's his retinue. It's three knobs and 3 knobs in mega armor. Sorry, three knobs in mega armor and 5 knobs. So yes, it's got that elite feel to it. But typically, generally, when you say orcs, and I think it's fair to say when you say orcs to most people, they don't think small elite force. That is not how orcs made their name. They did not make their name from small elite forces. They made their name from there being absolutely bloody millions of them, rampant, essentially inability to deal with a full-size war, just because of how many there are, how quickly they reproduce, just how overwhelming the numbers and refusal to back down. That's what orcs are to me, and I'd argue that's pretty much what they are to most people, which makes the box look weird, because immediately it's like, okay, so there's not actually that many orcs in there. Now, of course, some of it may be down purely just to balance things. If you can't just throw in like 40 boys in a box, because that also would probably be a bit like intimidating for people wanting to pick this up as like a new player. And honestly, I think that's something they do give consideration to with these things. Maybe not as much as the consideration that people will be desperate enough for Ragnar or Gaz to buy the box, even though they don't care about anything else in it. But I think there is at least an idea of, okay, let's not make it too overbearing. The other issue that I have is that the Space Wolves force is like, for me, again, it's just me, it's just my personal thing. If you disagree, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. This is just how I've seen Space Wolves forever. Yes, they can do stealth, obviously. One of my favourite moments of Burning of Prospero was the fact that the Space Wolves were able to essentially sneak up on the... What was their name? The Elemnic Quietude, I think they were called. And they were like super stealthy and super sleek. But there was still a vast amount of description in that book about runes carved in armour, about wolf's teeth and pelts and talismans and personalisation and like the leather face masks and all of this stuff, and how they'd managed to tie them down so they didn't make any noise, they moved silently. That is a cool image that I can get behind and I really like. That is just some infiltrators painted a light blue. For a start, the infiltrators feel like the least Space Wolfy of all the Primaris options. They are literally a SWAT team in space with like silenced carbines and crazy sensor stuff going on. They all have helmets on, which ordinarily I would love. In any other chapter, big fan of that. Helmets all the way. Just give me helmets. Don't do bare heads. Bare heads are stupid. Bare heads just mean you get shot in the face and then you're totally worthless. Helmets all the way. Except when it comes to Space Wolves. If I had a Space Wolves army, I would have a bunch of bare-headed dudes in my army, because Space Wolves pretty famously very much like their natural senses over their armour senses. You look at Space Wolf Terminators, 9 out of 10 dudes have got their face out. If you look at their normal squads, 9 out of 10 dudes have got their face out. This specific squad has no personalisation. They have all helmets, apart from 2 guys who have like half helmets. And then to top it off, like, I get the stealthy, sneaky aspect, right? They need to be stealthy, they need to be sneaky. This is a strike. This is a surgical strike against Gaz and his retinue. That's what this is. Ragnar looks like a Space Wolf, and everyone else looks like people dressed as Space Wolves for Halloween, but without the effort. He's the only one that looks like an actual... He's the only one that looks Space Wolfy to me. It just feels so weird, this box, and... I think it is mostly because of just a couple of factors. That's all it is. Ragnar looks as a Space Wolf should look. None of the infiltrators look like that. The infiltrators and Ragnar outnumber the orcs, which is just bizarro land, because the orcs don't get outnumbered. That's kind of the fucking point with orcs. I don't know. It's just, I really liked the idea of this. I thought it'd be kind of fun, but now that I see it, it just doesn't look exciting. It looks lackluster. And if anything, I would say that this particular picture, the Space Wolf half of this picture, is almost like a entirely perfect summary of why Primarius gets so much pushback. Because the only thing that is denoting these guys as being Space Wolves is the colour of the armour. And now, I know what you're going to say. Kiri, that's how Space Marine chapters work. It's a difference in armour colour, basically. It is, but that only applies to some chapters. It doesn't apply to all chapters. Some chapters have far more in the way of personalisation. They have far more in the way of unique personality. They have far more in the way of, like, the personal touch. Space Wolves is one of those chapters. They always have been. And this isn't... In my head, this is not what Space Wolves look like. Ragnar is what Space Wolves look like. That's what they look like. Long-haired dudes, wolf pelts, icons, runes, talismans, all of that stuff. A massive sword. That's Space Wolves. The other guys just don't look like Space Wolves to me. The armour's the right colour, but the personality is not there. Only the armour colour's there. The personality is totally missing. It's disappointing, but I don't really know why. I think it is just my own personal biases just kind of going, no, but I just don't like it. Which is not great, it's not satisfying, and in fact it's a little bit frustrating because, to be honest, I could easily use those infiltrators. I've still got the bloody Dark Imperium Primaris that I need to repaint to match my Dreadmob. I could easily use some infiltrators. I could totally convert Ragnar into something. and I would get Gazgul, which would be quality, and I'd get some knobs and mega knobs, which, to be fair, orcs were... I love my Speed Freaks army that I had way back, and I could easily start them again. God knows I like kit bashing enough to make a good go of it, but the overall impact just is not there for me for this one. It's just not... just doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel like an interesting box. Blood of the Phoenix was overpriced. There's no doubt about that. Blood of the Phoenix cost way too much. But at least Blood of the Phoenix, I looked at and went, oh, that's kind of a cool box. That's cool, I like that. Not all the units in there were even good. I know quite a few people were like, the unit selection for Dark Eldar is trash. But it still looked like an interesting box. It looked like an interesting fight. It felt impactful. This doesn't feel impactful. This feels like a box that was put together to match a storyline, and the idea was essentially, well, we need something to go with these two guys, so there we go. That's what it feels like. And I don't think that's entirely fair. I don't think I'm actually being completely rational. I'd be perfectly happy to say that I'm not, but it's just not doing it for me, and I don't like that, because there's enough stuff that comes out where I'm like, hell yes, give me that right now, this instant. I don't even collect that army, but I want that model. Look how good that is. I want that with every release, which is obviously totally unrealistic, but when I get something that is so just kind of, I guess that exists, great, it just feels crap and hollow. I don't like it. We're going to have to wait a long time for Ragnar and Gaz to show up. If this box had been a little bit more interesting, if it had felt a bit more personal to the Space Wolves, if there hadn't been a weird, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right as a box. It just feels off, weird, not great. Which is a pity. So, yeah. Anyway, let me know what you think of this particular box in the comments down below. I'm assuming a good number of you will completely disagree with me, and that is totally fine. You're allowed to do that. This is a subjective thing. That's all it is. It's just plastic soldiers. You can disagree with as many people as you like. That's pretty much the law. So yeah, let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to click all the things, Patreon video, subscribe, all that stuff. And as always, there's an affiliate link in the description for Element Games. So you buy something, I get something for sending you that way. It's a nice way to support the channel. Saves you a bunch of money on your plastic crack. And some of it goes to charity at the end of the month. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.